Basically, this 206C falls under Chapter 17, which deals with collection and recovery of tax. So, it is not any new charging provision which has been introduced. So, not a fresh levy or not a fresh charge, you may say. It's just a method of recovering tax. So, Chapter 17 of the Act, which deals with collection and recovery. So, we already have Part B of Chapter 17, which deals with tax deduction at source, and part BB, which deals with collection at source. So here the idea is what? As the title goes, collection at source. So the idea is that if by a certain transaction, I am going to earn an income in future, the government tries to strike at the very source of that transaction and take a small pie out of your whole chunk of revenue which you are going to get from that transaction as a collection in advance. And this is going to be set off against your actual tax liability. So any amendment in this section 206C as such can affect a taxpayer from two perspectives. One, of course, from compliance perspective, because a heavy burden will be charged with a consequent provisions of interest and penalty in case you are late in complying with the various provisions of that filing of quarterly statement, making payment, etc., etc. So that compliance burden. And secondly, from the recipient's perspective, the working capital blockage. No doubt you are going to get credit of those taxes at the time of your filing of return of income. So it's a sort of advance tax. So two major hit to the taxpayers is for both the collector and the collectee is the compliance burden from collector's point of view, and from collectee's point of view, the blockage of working capital. So it's not a fresh levy. It's not that some new tax is imposed, just a matter of collection of tax. The intention probability could be twofold. One, of course, collecting tax in advance, and another could be increasing your tax base. As you might have seen that since last a decade or so, government is trying to increase its tax base by using technology, and to a great extent they have been successful also. Now, by way of this TCS transaction, what happens when my transaction gets flagged by way of the quarterly statement uh, and gets reflected in my 26 years, etc. If I am doing some one-off transaction, and if I am not a regular taxpayer, and if I am doing any of those transactions, and my transaction gets flagged there, so it's a kind of a tool with the government to collect that information. So that can help increase the tax base. Like coincidentally, today morning itself, yesterday we scheduled this meeting, and today morning somebody called me exactly on this provision that I am doing certain transaction on some not exactly Bitcoin, but something similar to Bitcoin. He was doing on some other website, and he says, "ये तो मैं 4-5 महीने से कर रहा हूँ, and all of a sudden I have noticed in my statement that bank is collecting some 5% TCS there without intimating me. So awareness is also not there. New provision effective from 1st of October, and he says bank has not intimated me." So I explained him orally. So once a new provision is enacted, there is no provision in the law that bank will inform you. You're doing that transaction, and so the TCS provision will be there, and of course there is no loss to you as such. It will be adjusted against your total tax liability. One is subsection 1G, where there are again subsection 1G, there are two kinds of transaction, both deal with foreign remittances. So one, there is an obligation on the authorized dealer that when he is remitting any amount outside India on behalf of any person under the liberalized remittance scheme, LRS scheme, which we popularly call, of the Reserve Bank of India. So any remittance done under the LRS, and secondly, a seller of an overseas tour program package. So when we are booking a package tour with for any foreign tour, so the travel agency or any person who is selling that package. So these two persons, the authorized dealer under making remittance under LRS, and tour operator or tour broker or whatever, who is making a booking for a foreign tour. On these two provisions, there is a TCS imposed under subsection 1G. And to my knowledge, not a great variety of people will be affected by this provision of 1G. Of course, foreign tour, many people would be affected, but because of Corona, now at least in the immediate future, we don't see any kind of a foreign tour, at least in the near future. But the second provision, subsection 1H, whereas basically they have imposed TCS on sale of goods. And by this provision, of course, subject to the threshold limits are very high. But those who are caught under that threshold, there are going to be various interpretational issues in its implication in its implementation. The threshold and macro level are two limits under that. That your turnover in the preceding year should be more than 10 crores, and sale to one particular buyer in the current year should be more than 50 lakhs. If these two thresholds are met, then you have to do a TCS at the time of receiving the consideration for sale of goods at the rate of 0.1%. And of course, because of the COVID, current year we have that provision where only 75% of the applicable TDS and TCS rates. So it will be effectively, current year it will be 0.075%. But there could be various small issues interpretation as to whether in counting this limit of 10 crore, we need to include even the GST component, or whether it should go by excluding the GST. I'm aware there are some clarification by way of FAQ, but of course that is not binding on the assessee, and assessee can take a different position. Secondly, whether it will be applicable on advance, because sale of goods is going to take place in future. Then peculiarly in this particular financial year, because though it was introduced in the budget in the month of February, but it has been made operative from 1st of October. So whether in the current year, how to calculate this limit of 50 lakhs, whether I should see only from October onward or whether I should see for the entire year. These are all small challenges. But I personally feel that generally in TDS and TCS, the practical experience is that generally people try to avoid litigation, and that's saying because the one who's going to implement this, either a deductor or a collector, money doesn't go from his pocket, and therefore generally people don't take any adventurous position. They go on a safer side. Okay, we'll have a let us try to avoid litigation and collect kar lete hain is per bit tax, because it is ultimately going from the opposite party's pocket. I was saying that apart from these small niceties, what I see is one major constitutional challenge is that can such a provision be upheld in the sense that, see, basically income tax, as our charging section 4 says, is basically it is a tax on total income. And if we section the very first section of this chapter 17, that is section 190. That section 190, which is in fact, you can say under chapter A, part A of this chapter 17, which is titled General. In the title of the section is Deduction at Source and Advance Payment. So what this section 190 says that, notwithstanding that the regular assessment in respect of any income is to be made in a later assessment year, tax on such income shall be payable by deduction or collection at source or by way of advance payment. So what is the idea? The idea is that if I am an assessee, if I am a person, I have a total income. The total income of this particular financial year, which we call previous year in income tax, will be chargeable to tax in the next assessment year. However, section 190 says that notwithstanding that assessment is going to take place next year, in the current year, tax could be collected by way of either deduction at source or at collection at source or by way of advance payment. So this year, either by way of deduction or by collection or advance, some money will be taken from my pocket, which will of course be adjusted towards my tax payable. So ultimately, what is the idea? Ultimately, the idea is this is an advance collection against the tax liability on my total income. Now, if you see the existing provision under TCS, under section 206C, under subsection 1, there is a TCS provision where there are certain specified goods provided, alcoholic liquor for human consumption, tendu leaves, etc., on which TCS provision is there. Now, when a seller is selling goods to a buyer, at the time of collecting that money from the buyer, seller is supposed to collect tax at source. Now, a layman will ask that from the buyer's perspective, from whose pocket this money is going, where is it an income? Because the buyer is buying the goods and therefore it is actually an expenditure for him. But the idea is that, in fact, this very idea, when this TCS provision was originally introduced, a very old judgment reported in 178 ITR 31, Andhra Pradesh High Court, the constitutional validity of section 44C as well as this section 206C was challenged as to how you can collect tax from a buyer. And the idea basically in TCS, when introduction of this TCS philosophy was that if I am a buyer of certain specified goods, for example, tendu leaves or a forest produce, and I am going to further sell this product to some other people. So I'll be buying from someone and then I'll be selling it. So when I'm selling it, of course, I'm going to earn something, and that total income will be chargeable to tax. Against that tax liability, they are saying at the source itself. So what is the source of my this income? Source income is my buying. So they say we'll attack this transaction when you are buying this and you are making payment for your purchases to the seller. Some tax will be collected at source from you, and therefore it justifies the terminology collection at source. And if you see the definition of buyer in clause AA of the explanation, that the definition of buyer excludes a buyer in the retail sale of such goods purchased by him for personal consumption. Therefore, when I'm buying, say, tendu leaves for my personal consumption, because I'm not going to sell these in future, I'm not going to earn. If I'm not going to earn by way of this transaction, there is no source of income which you are going to attack. And therefore, such transactions were kept outside the TCS net in the existing regime. So if I'm a buyer in the retail sale of such goods meant for personal consumption, I was excluded from TCS. That means only a buyer who is going to use these goods for the purpose of his business was subjected to TCS. But if you see the current two subsections, 1G and 1H, which has been introduced in the Finance Act 2020, here they have a separate definition of buyer. For the purpose of subsection 1H, the definition of buyer is given in clause A of the explanation to subsection 1H, and not the definition given in clause AA of the explanation to the entire section. So because for this subsection 1H, there is a separate definition of buyer, and that definition of buyer does not have an exclusion of personal consumption. Secondly, if you see subsection 1G, when I'm making remittance under an LRS scheme, for example, it could be any on a capital account also, like my relatives are staying there and for their education or for medical needs, I'm making some remittance. There is no income element involved in this. And if there is no income element involved in this, or if I'm making a payment for an overseas tour program, there is no income element involved in this, then what is that nexus whose source you are going to attack? You want to collect tax at source, but source of what? Source naturally has to be of some income. If I am going to use this transaction for the purpose of a business, then there is going to be an income in future, which might be trying to be the tax on which might be trying to be collected at source. But when there is no possibility of an income, how can there be a tax collection at source? So that is one major challenge. And the judgment which I was saying reported in 178 ITR 31, Andhra Pradesh High Court, which was later upheld by Supreme Court also in Union of India versus A. Sannyasi Rao, that was reported in 1996 SCC 465. The Andhra Pradesh High Court has upheld the constitutional validity of section 206C on the basis that there is going to be a later assessment of your total income and this tax will be adjusted against that amount. Now, in this particular scenario, there could be a scenario, in fact, there could be a scenario where there is an income in future from this transaction. There could be a possibility there is no income from this transaction, like liberalized LRS scheme payment or a foreign overseas tour package. So if there is no income from this transaction, what is the source which you are trying to attack. Then the second impediment in the implementation was Rule 37I, which gives credit for the taxes. Under Rule 37I, the existing sub rule 2 provides that credit will be given in the year in which the relevant income is assessable. So here again, in the example which I have given, from these transaction, if there is no income which is accessible in the future, I may probably never get a credit for those transactions. And therefore, with this introduction, at least that defect or that anomaly they have removed by inserting, I think, sub rule 2A in Rule 37I, which says that for these provisions, the new TCS provision which they have now introduced, the tax credit will be given immediately in the year in which that collection is made. So not linking it with any income, because of course there could be many transactions where there will be no income. So the question of in which year I'll be getting credit, or probably somebody could have challenged on arbitrariness under Article 14, because if there is no income, I will never get the credit, because the existing wording of the rule says credit will be given in the year in which the income is assessable. So at least that part they have taken care of by insertion of sub rule 2A in Rule 37I. But the major question still remains, if there is no income element in that particular transaction, if the transaction is purely on my personal account, does the legislature have power to impose a collection at source? Because at source, again I repeat, Section 190 says that this deduction, collection and advance payment is for the tax liability on your total income. So deduction at source of income, collection at source of income. If there is no income from these transactions, can this collection at source be justified? That is my view.